You scroll for one more minute, then one more, then 10 more go by and you don't remember deciding to keep going. Your hand just kept moving. Your eyes just kept searching. But the real answer for why this happens is far stranger than weak willpower or a badly designed app. Your brain thinks it's foraging, not browsing, not scrolling, foraging. The same circuitry that once sent your ancestors out across grasslands and forests, searching for the next berry bush or the next herd of animals, is the exact circuitry lighting up right now when you swipe down on a glowing rectangle in your pocket. You are not using a phone. You are hunting. You just don't have the spear anymore. Here is the strange part. For roughly 2.5 million years, the human brain was shaped almost entirely by one repeating problem. Where is the next resource, and is it worth the energy to go get it? Anthropologists call this foraging behavior, and it never required conscious thought. It became instinct, deep, wordless, automatic instinct. Think about what foraging actually demands. You don't know where the food is. You have to search. Sometimes you find nothing for hours. Sometimes, suddenly, you find a whole patch of ripe fruit. That unpredictability is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. Researchers studying hunter-gatherer societies, including work led by anthropologist Kristen Hawkes on the Hadza people of Tanzania, have shown that foraging success is wildly inconsistent. Long stretches of nothing, then a sudden payoff. And that inconsistency trains the brain to keep searching, because the next try might be the one that pays off big. Does that sound familiar? It should, because that exact pattern, long stretches of nothing followed by a sudden reward, is precisely how a slot machine works. It is also precisely how your social media feed works. Most posts you scroll past mean nothing to you. Then, every so often, one lands. A funny video, a shocking headline, a message from someone you like. Your brain doesn't process this as content. It processes this as a successful foraging run. There's a name for the brain chemistry behind this: dopamine. But most people misunderstand what dopamine actually does, so let's clear it up immediately. Dopamine is not the chemical of pleasure. It is the chemical of pursuit. Neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz, in a series of landmark experiments on reward prediction, discovered that dopamine neurons fire most intensely not when an animal receives a reward, but when the reward is uncertain. The anticipation, not the prize, is where the chemical surge happens. Read that again. The anticipation is the high, not the find. This means your ancestors weren't rewarded for finding the berries. They were rewarded for the act of searching itself, because searching is what kept them alive long enough to maybe find the berries. Evolution built a brain that loves the chase more than the catch. That's not a bug. That's the entire engine of survival. Now look at your phone again. Every app you use that keeps you coming back has, whether by design or by accident, recreated this exact foraging loop. The pull to refresh gesture, the infinite scroll, the unpredictable timing of likes and notifications. None of this had to be invented from nothing. It was simply borrowed, almost perfectly, from a hunting and gathering pattern that has existed in your skull for millions of years. But foraging wasn't just about food. It was about information too. Your ancestors weren't only searching for berries. They were constantly scanning for threats, for social information, for anything that might matter to their survival. A rustle in the grass, a change in a neighboring tribe's behavior, a new face. Psychologist Daniel Berline, in his research on curiosity and information-seeking behavior in the mid-20th century, demonstrated that novelty itself, simply the experience of something new, activates the same reward circuitry as food does. Your brain doesn't just hunger for nutrients, it hungers for new information, because new information once meant survival. This is why you check the news even when it makes you anxious. This is why you open an app with no notification, just to see if something changed. You are foraging for information the same way your ancestors foraged for food, scanning the horizon of your digital environment for anything new, anything different, anything that might be the next useful resource. Here's the twist that makes this even stranger. Your ancestors' foraging environment had natural limits. There were only so many berry bushes, only so many hours of daylight, only so much energy in a human body before exhaustion forced rest. The loop had an ending built into it. Your digital environment has no such limit. The feed never runs out. The notifications never stop being possible. The search for new information can continue, technically, forever. You are running ancient software, built for a world with edges, inside a digital world that has none. And nobody warned your dopamine system about that. This is not a story about willpower failure. Researchers like Adam Alter, who has studied behavioral addiction and app design extensively, have pointed out that the design choices behind infinite scroll and unpredictable rewards are not accidental quirks. They are deliberate exploitations of exactly the reward prediction system Wolfram Schultz identified, tuned specifically to keep that ancient foraging instinct firing, again and again, without ever fully satisfying it. So what does this mean for you, specifically, today? It means the shame you might feel after losing 2 hours to your phone is misplaced. You didn't fail a character test. Your brain did exactly what it evolved to do. It searched for resources in an environment engineered to make searching feel endless and rewarding, with no natural stopping point in sight. The flaw isn't in you. It's in the mismatch between an ancient brain and a modern environment it was never built to navigate. But understanding the mechanism is also the first real tool you have against it. Once you know that the pull you feel isn't about the content itself, but about the unpredictability of the next swipe, you can start interrupting the loop on purpose. Turning off notifications doesn't remove willpower from the equation. It removes the unpredictable cue that triggers the ancient foraging response in the first place. Setting a feed to chronological order, rather than algorithmic, restores a kind of predictability that your dopamine system doesn't find nearly as gripping. These aren't tricks. They're a direct response to the actual neuroscience of what's happening in your skull. There's something almost moving about all of this if you sit with it for a moment. The same brain circuitry that once helped a small group of humans survive on an unforgiving savanna, scanning, searching, hoping for the next find, is still running inside you right now, just rerouted into a glass rectangle. You carry the savanna with you everywhere. You just call it a phone now. There's a deeper layer to this too, one that goes beyond food and information and into something closer to your sense of identity. Foraging was never a solitary act. Your ancestors searched in groups. They shared what they found. They kept track, constantly, of who contributed what, who could be trusted, who had helped and who had taken without giving back. Evolutionary psychologists Leda Kasmides and John Tooby, in their research on social exchange and the evolved mind, argued that humans developed specialized cognitive machinery just for tracking social reciprocity, almost like a mental ledger that never stops running in the background. That ledger didn't disappear when foraging for food became foraging for content. It just changed targets. Every like you check is a small reading of that ancient ledger. Every comment is a data point about your standing in the group. You are not simply curious about whether your post did well. You are running the same social accounting system your ancestors used to track who deserved a share of the kill and who had been pulling their weight at camp. The numbers on a screen feel oddly weighty because, to a very old part of your brain, they aren't numbers at all. They're tribe. This also explains why a single critical comment can outweigh 50 kind ones in how it feels. Negative social information was, for most of human history, far more dangerous to ignore than positive information. A friend's approval was nice. An enemy's hostility could be lethal. Psychologist Roy Baumeister's research on the asymmetry between negative and positive experiences found that people consistently weigh bad information more heavily than good, a pattern so consistent across cultures that it appears to be a basic feature of the human mind rather than a personality quirk. Your brain isn't being dramatic when one harsh reply ruins your whole day. It's running a threat detection program that once kept your ancestors alive in a world where social exile could mean death. Step back even further and the pattern gets stranger still. Foraging environments rewarded a very specific kind of attention. Broad, scanning, slightly restless. You couldn't afford to fixate too long on one bush when there might be a better one nearby, or a predator approaching from the other direction. This wide, shifting attention was an asset, not a weakness. It kept you alive in an unpredictable landscape. Now picture trying to read a single long article, start to finish, without your attention sliding sideways toward a notification, a tab, a thought about something else entirely. That restlessness you feel isn't a modern attention disorder invented by smartphones. It's the same scanning instinct that once kept a forager's eyes moving across the tree line. The instinct is ancient. Only the tree line has changed.